Hello and welcome to this episode of the GrowVc Everyone Funding Startups podcast. Today I'm here with Marc, who's been following GrowVc for quite some time, and recently he has been helping us out with various things on many different fronts. But before jumping into this interesting talk, let's look at our member highlight from the venture community. And that's a startup called Roozz.com, and their slogan is, "Makes software grow." And what they do actually is they easily make any software run in your browser. And Roozz is actually one of the startups to complete the 3-month startup bootcamp program in Denmark, and they've surely had an interesting experience during that time. And you can also read up on their experiences in our forum on Talks, and follow their progress in the community as well as on Roozz.com, and that's spelled Roozz.com. So let's start talking with Marc. So Marc, why don't you give a short background on yourself to our audience?
Okay, great. I grew up in New York, and I went to college at the Wharton School of Business at the University of Pennsylvania. And now I currently work at an investment bank. And I've been very interested in finance and the global economy for quite some time, and especially startup finance. I think startups drive innovation, and that's why I'm extremely interested in GrowVc.
You actually have a kind of peculiar history in that sense that you've recognized the same problem as we did some time ago, and you even explored doing something about that problem. So could you elaborate on that a little bit and what happened?
Well, it was last summer, and I was thinking a lot about startup funding, a lot about venture capital, and I wanted to find a way to democratize capital, to democratize investing, to make it more open to as many individuals as possible. Because I feel that when you open something up like this to more individuals, it leads to greater innovation. So I tried to create a similar product to GrowVc in the US, but I came into some legal problems around accredited investors and realized that I didn't have enough funding money to start taking on such huge legal problems. So I decided to stop. But then I saw the a GrowVc email, and I've been following it ever since, and I'm glad to say that I'm now part of the team.
And what do you think about these legal restrictions? I mean, they of course have their purpose, but do you think they've outlived their use in a way?
I understand the purpose is to protect investors from fraud, and naturally that is extremely important. However, given today's free flow of information, the ability for all individuals to background check, to understand what a company does, I think that it's more exclusive than it needs to be. And it creates a situation where only certain individuals can invest in innovation. And they invest where they see fit. But when you include the masses, when you include everyday individuals who don't have, $250,000 of income or $1 million of assets, I think that it opens the door to greater innovation. It gives people more access, which is important.
And what do you think is maybe most appealing about crowdfunding in general, or the things that we're trying to accomplish with GrowVc?
Well, I think the community fund captures what's most important about crowdfunding, which is using democracy, using the ability of individuals to choose to make the right decision in large groups is a great way to see where venture capital firms, traditional venture capital firms, should be placing their capital. I think that the community fund gives validation to startup companies and says, look, there is thousands of people out there that are really interested in this product. Why shouldn't it get the funding that it needs? I think that is extremely important. So using GrowVc, some companies are going to get funding that traditionally wouldn't.
And since you're located in the US, which is kind of like the Mecca or Valhalla of startups in a way, What do you think about, shouldn't the US be kind of the best place for a product like this that really captures the startup mentality and really kind of, like you said, drives the innovation and the flow of capital to the places that actually create value? Shouldn't that be the best, kind of the best context for a solution like this?
Absolutely. And in a growing macro economy, if the US wants to remain competitive, where with bigger players like China, India, Brazil, who have a larger percentage of the population than the US, I think the key for the US to remain competitive is innovation and is investing in individuals who want to push forward, who want to move forward the progress of the human race in general. And that's what innovation is. It's moving forwards. It's creative destruction. And if the US wants to remain competitive in that area, it's going to have to embrace technologies like GrowVc, who allow a greater number of individuals to participate in the startup community. I only see positives from this. I understand why a lot of the laws are in place in the US. But if we wish to remain competitive in the future, something is going to have to give.
You already touched on this quite a bit, but or you definitely touched on the implications of crowdfunding for startups. But what do you see on the flip side for those high net worth individuals, for example?
I think it removes the individual's inability to make an appropriate decision. Sometimes, a high net worth individual may wish to invest in a startup and may think an idea is great. Well, now they have validation. They have a new source to tap into, which is the crowd source. It's the group. And they understand, well, okay, I really like this innovation. I really like this new company. But will anyone else? Well, now that you have GrowVc and companies like GrowVc, you have the ability to see for yourself, wow, actually other people do like this company. This company is going to be important moving forwards. People are going to participate in the product that they have to offer. So it's almost validation from a venture capital or a high net worth angel investor perspective.
And you already mentioned China for a moment, so let's pick on that because I know you have a passion for China and you have some background there as well. So could you give a kind of your personal view on China or why you find it so fascinating in general?
I find China extremely fascinating because of the people. The people in China have a unique capitalist drive, and I've never seen a greater work ethic than from individuals in China. I mean, they hold work and they hold education and learning in the highest regard. So that's one thing that fascinates me about China. I think any community that holds education and holds the passion for working in such high regard, it's going to lead to innovation eventually. So I do see China moving forwards as a region in which innovation begins to thrive. Currently that's not the case. I think that most innovation comes from the West still. But I think that moving forward, China will be a big player in the startup space.
As we launched the Chinese local platform a little over a month ago, which has been a huge success, but we've also learned a whole lot during the process and are constantly learning. And as we address the context in the US, how do you think the Chinese context or the Chinese potential, how do you think that will play into empowering what is the huge crowd in China?
Well, we live in a global village. We no longer live in a world of isolated nation states. I mean, that's the fact. We need to embrace this. We need to understand it on a greater scale. And I think that it's impressive that GrowVc has begun its path in emerging economies and then moved to a more developed nation in the US. I think that from a US perspective, that's going to be extremely helpful for US investors in particular to be able to tap into these emerging markets. It's going to give them access where they don't have access. And I think that will further drive innovation